Hey everyone, welcome back to Craps University. We're going to do something interesting today. We're not necessarily going to talk about how you place your bets, where you place them, what this is, what that is, but we're going to go back to talking about dice. Our very first episode, we talked about dice. Now, let's talk about dice again. So, I wanted to go through kind of what a stickman calls certain things. So for you and I, we might know these playing games with your family when you're growing up. Snake eyes. You right? It's pretty self-explanatory. Snake's got two eyes, eye and an eye, snake eyes. But what else do we call that? Do you hear that at the crap tables? Snake eyes, two craps, two, double aces, loose deuce, snickies. Some of the funny things and some of the way that the stickman might say that is snake eyes, the one and only. Two craps, two, take the line, pay the don't. So let's just say on the come out roll, that's you, that's somebody next to you. One's playing the pass line, take the line, pay the don't. The don't gets paid. So the stickman, they're trying to give hints and tell the dealers what they need to be doing. Aces double the field right here. So if it hits and there's field bets out there, that's usually the call. Loose deuce, should have stayed home. Usually that's on a come out roll and people are playing the pass line. Everybody loses the pass line. Snickies, blink, you missed it. Haven't heard that one. I had to do some research, found that one. And, you know, now we get into some comedy. When a two rolls like that, you might hear a stickman say, that roll's tighter than a grandma's purse strings. So, you know, that means a two. And sometimes you'll run into really some comedy. Usually you hear that in Las Vegas because they've got plenty crap tables. Sometimes their crap tables are not busy. If you go to a casino on an Indian reservation, those places are packed all the time for some reason because it's the only casino around. And then the last one you might hear, double ones, the saddest twins in town. All right, so we covered everything. So right there, the next, we have a one and a two. Some of the traditional names are three craps three, ace-deuce, ace-deuce, Tracy. That's basically ace-deuce, Tracy. So on the come out roll, you might hear ace-deuce, come away, you know, where you know you're going to lose your pass line, or if there's a come bet, if a point's been established, come bet, the stickman helps the table understand that that come bet is gone. Three craps three, line away. Ace caught a deuce, say goodbye to that come bet. Tracy's here and she brought tears. You know, these are things you don't normally hear. I've heard some of them. Ace-deuce, no love here. That roll was dirtier than your browser history. You know, I haven't heard that one. That's an interesting one. And this one, it's a turd with legs. So take that meaning, yeah, that's a bad roll. Turd with legs. Three, like your chances of a second date. Okay, so that does everything for the two. Now, four, okay? We know with fours, there are three ways to roll a four. Since it's an even, there's a hard way here. So we've got the hard way shown. Traditional names are Little Joe from Kokomo, the ballerina. Why do they call it the ballerina? This is why. Tutu. Ballerina wears a tutu. So they call it the ballerina. And then Little Dick. Haven't heard Little Dick as a traditional name, but this one is hard four, ballerina on point. And then you might hear Little Joe from Kokomo, easy four, the foreplay before the disaster, tutu, tighter than Vegas parking. You know, if you work at a craps table for 8 hours a day for a career, you're going to come up with some interesting stuff. You also might hear Little Joe on the front row, hard four, two ducks, no luck, easy four, looser than the last call at the bar. All right, so let's move on to this, okay? Now we're getting into some numbers that we hear more often. You know, a 2, one way to roll it. You're not going to see it as often. A 3, 2 ways. A 4, 3 ways. A 5, there are 4 ways to roll a 5. So my favorite is Fever 5. The Fever. No field 5. I always use no field 5. Phoebe. Fever in the South. West Kentucky. West Kentucky I don't really get, but I'm sure it's out there. Fever 5. Feeling alive. You know, that just the stickman is starting to rhyme here. That 5's hotter than a church on payday. So that's interesting. Nickel in the middle. Not enough for gas. 5. Like your last raise, disappointing. I guess they're saying because 5 is not in that field. All right, let's move on to the next one. Next one, we're showing a hard 6. 6 and 8, you see quite a bit. Traditional names are Jimmy Hicks, 60 Days, Sick, 666, Winner 6. I've heard all of those. Hard 6, Jimmy Hicks in the mix. Easy 6, 5-1. Still no fun. So 5-1. That 6 hit harder than your student loans. So whoever's got student loans, they hit hard, I tell you what. 3-3, that couples therapy waiting to happen again. 6, neighbor of sex, and just as messy. Never heard that one. All right, so this is the one that we all hate. The most common rolled number at the craps table. So you'll hear traditionally big red, 7 out, up pops the devil, 6 ace. So it's really a slap in the face when you get a 6 and an ace. I guess because that's half of a 2, which is only one way to roll, and half of a 12. So this one really kills a lot of people. They're like, 6 ace. 6 7, like your ex. Never on time, but always shows up. That's a pretty funny one. Moving on to an 8. Some of the traditional names are Aider from Decatur, square pair, right there, we got the square pair. Mom and Dad, Ozzie and Harriet, I've heard all those. Hard 8, double the flare. Easy 8, Mom and Dad just had a fight. Aider from Decatur, looking for a gator. I've never heard that one. That's interesting. 8, late night date you won't remember. You might hear Ozzie and Harriet. For those who know who Ozzie and Harriet is, domestic chaos. When you hit a hard A, you might hear, that role's more balanced than your therapist. Hard 8, double thick and full of attitude. All right. That was a good one. I liked it. So we are looking for 9. You hear me say probably the most common one. Center field 9, right there. Center field. Railroad 9. Nina from Pasadena. Jesse James. Old Mike. Why do they call it Jesse James? The reason why? Right there. 45. 45 caliber. Center field 9. Front and center. Right there. Front and center to the players. Nina from Pasadena bringing the heat. Railroad 9. All aboard the pain train. A 6'3". Spicy like a jalapeno tree. Nina from Carolina. Old Mike. So dunking your chips like MJ. I hope somebody gets that because I do. I was a big Michael Jordan fan growing up. Why? Why do they call that Old Mike? Because when he came back to the Bulls, he wore number 45. So they have taken that and now it's just called Old Mike 45 because that was his number. All right. 10. All right. Setting it to the hard way there. Some of the traditional names, Big Dick. Big Dick from Boston. This is my favorite right here. Puppy paws, right? Looks like puppy paws. Dos Equis. Never heard that one. Pair of sunflowers. Yep, I guess it looks like a flower. Big John. Hard 10. Big Dick from Boston's in the house. So, never heard that one called out, but that's actually pretty funny. Easy 10. 6'4". Let's see more. Yeah. They want to see 10 roll more because payouts are good. You only see it have 3 combinations. Big John just kicked in the door. All right. 10. Hard 10. Stiffer than your last drink. All right. Moving on. All right. What do we got here? 11. Traditional names. Yo. Took me a little bit to figure out what yo was when the very first time. I was like, I had to ask somebody, what is yo? Or it would be yo 11. 6'5", no jive. Right there. 6'5", no jive. We know that there's only 2 ways to roll it, and it always has to roll at 6'5". you might get that rolls smoother than jazz in silk underwear. Yo, Levin, your lucky ex just texted back. Field pays, don't get slayed. 11, like a surprise birthday, you forgot to plan. That means when that hits, people are like, why wasn't I playing the horn? Right there, 15-1. You know? If you could see into the future what the next roll was, these prop bets, you'd be killing it. All right. And then the last one here. I grew up playing Monopoly with the family. Somebody would roll that. And it was always boxcars. That was my kind of kid understanding of what that is. But my favorite is, the traditional is midnight, 12 midnight. 12 craps, 12. Boxcars, freight train of pain, midnight. 12 craps, 12, come away, double doom. So that means my table plays triple, but most tables pay double for 12 right there, double doom. Double sixes, twice the lickus. Double sixes, twice the licks. Lickses. That's 12, like your browser tab, and 1 makes sense. Boxcars, choo-choo, you're screwed. That would be on a come-out roll when you'd hear that. Boxcars, choo-choo, you're screwed, because everybody with a pass line loses. Don't pass is a push. It's not a win or a lose. So 12 is probably the worst number to throw on a come out, unless you're playing high-low or 12. I mean, 30-1. That's pretty good. Throw a 5 over here, that's 150. All right. If you like what you're seeing, you like what you're hearing, go ahead and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Comment anything you'd like to see in the comments. And we'll see you next time from Craps University. Thanks.